there? Who's this Hawaiian stranger? It's about time they bring you back from Hawaii. I'm sorry. What did I call you?
Oh, Jennifer. I get that all the time. People are like, J-Man.
Oh, yeah.
And they were
meeting Monday, April 22nd, 2019, 7 p.m. Opening prayer, Reverend Bredesen.
Thank you. Good to be with you again. Still looking for volunteers to assist in this. Anyone that's listening, as this is broadcast online or anywhere else, always looking for folks to step in and take part in this as well. It's Easter Monday. It's the Passover season. Tiger Woods won the Masters. It's a season of hope and joy. The message, I think, of Easter is not so much an eternal hope, but hope in the here and now. Jesus, for Christians, rose from the dead. And for the Jews, Passover, the ancient Israelites were released from slavery in Egypt in the here and now. There is hope in this life as well. And so I'd like to read a little bit from Psalm 30. I will exalt you, Lord, for you lifted me out of the depths and did not let my enemies gloat over me. Though weeping may stay for the night, joy comes in the morning. You turn my wailing into dancing. You remove my sackcloth and clothe me with joy, that my heart may sing your praises and not be silent. Lord my God, I will praise you forever. And so my prayer is that this season of hope gives us hope for tackling the problems of this city, this community, that in the here and now we can see some victories for all kinds of challenges that we face. Let's pray. Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful day, this beautiful weather that we're enjoying. What a miracle in and of itself. Northeast Ohio, 70 and sunny. We thank you, Lord, for that. We thank you for that on this Earth Day. We thank you for the hope of this season, Passover, and the resurrection of Jesus. And we just ask you to fill us all with hope as we deal with a variety of challenges in our own personal lives, things that affect our ability to serve you and our community well, whether elected officials, civil servants, or voters that are here, members of the community, to help us get somewhere on all the tough issues that we face. We just ask, Lord, that you would help us to tackle those and give us hope that we can. Give us wisdom and guidance to know the best way to do that, and help us come together in a way that those solutions serve as many people, the good of as many people as possible. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Council's consideration of motion and a second to approve as presented. Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. Please call.
Sure. Peters.
Here.
Foltz.
Here.
Sorella.
Here.
Revolt.
Here.
Kiesling. Here. Waring. Here. And Compton.
Here.
7 present.
All right, thank you very much. Now, for your consideration. Motion and a second to approve as presented. Special committee meeting minutes, April 1st, 2019, and financial report, March 2019.
Motion to approve as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up we have the new president of the North Canton JCs, Mr. Stephen Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman, welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for this time to come and share a little bit about the JCs. I just kind of want to go over what our organization is about because it's probably been a couple of years since a representative has been here. But our mission as JCI International is to provide development opportunities that empower young people to create positive change. Our vision is to be the leading global network of young, active citizens. And this is what we believe. In fact, we actually say this pledge at every single membership meeting that we have. But we believe that faith in God gives meaning and purpose to human life, that the brotherhood of man transcends the sovereignty of nations, that economic justice can best be won by free men through free enterprise, that government should be of laws rather than of men, that Earth's greatest treasure lies in human personality, and that service to humanity is the best work of life. Now, the JCs have been in this community for a long time. They've contributed in many significant ways, and I'm happy to say that we're still a strong and healthy chapter. We're the largest non-institutional chapter in the state. We have 37 active members in our organization. 57% are male, 43% is female, so we're almost 50-50 there. 73% of our members are between the ages of 30 and 40 years old, and 27% of our members are between 20 to 29 years old. We meet the third Wednesday of every month here at the North Canton Chamber at 7 p.m. And this year has been pretty unique because we have invited community leaders, nonprofit leaders, Stark Parks, and even the Stark Economic Initiative to come and to share to our members about what's going on in our community to provide that professional development. But most importantly, I think the JCs are pretty pivotal to the community and the events that we do and what we're actually providing for North Canton. On the 21st, we had Martin Luther King Day of Service where we had a clothing drive at the library. On April 20th, just the other day, we had the Easter egg hunt where we had lots of young kids who came out to get the eggs and see the Easter bunny. On May 25th, we run the Stark County Special Olympics at Hoover High School. In late June, we have Safety Town. And then June 10th through 15th, we have the fair, which hopefully you all will be at this year. Make sure to bring money for the gambling ticks. And we also have the July 4th parade and fireworks. And then finally, at the end of the year, we're very active in the community sing, which we hope would become Christmas sing again, hopefully, and the tree lighting. And so this is just a little bit. There are also some other activities and events we do as well, but these are some of the major events that we're able to contribute to in our community. And we love the partnership we have with you. We're hoping to make it stronger. There are several challenges that our chapter does face, and we hope that we can work with you in the future to solve them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Okay, at this time, if you wish to address council, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
we have a conflict, so
Okay.
we're going to step out of the room. Myself, Mark Stretta, and Dominic.
Dominic, okay, let the record reflect members Fonte, Easling, and Soretta. Okay. Robert?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, City Council, President Jeff Peters, Honorable Mayor Held. Wow, what more can I say?
Hey, Rob, can you state name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry, Rob Purcell. I'm with Arrowhead Golf Course. My address is 3815 Sioux Marie Circle, Uniontown, Ohio, 44685. Wow, what more can I say? The wow I'm referring to is the article in the Canton Repository dated 4/13/19. Unpaid rent is North Canton looking for change at Arrowhead Golf Club. Line 1 states that North Canton is looking for a new direction for the club. Reading this made me sick to my stomach, and I didn't know how to feel, and my heart sank. Scott and I both put a lot of our hearts into this for the last 10 years. In life, all you have is your character and your word. Scott's and mine were assassinated in this article. It's a shame that one man's agenda can be so harmful to so many people. We have families, we have employees that have families, and a lot of people rely on Scott and myself to be there for them. We employ 25 people year-round to 65 people during peak season. Many of these are Hoover students, single mothers, retirees, and North Canton residents who are Arrowhead proud. In 2009, the City of North Canton awarded Scott and I with a contract for the fairways of North Canton. We were two guys with a passion for golf and serving people. We weren't billionaires, and we still aren't. But in 10 years, we have brought Arrowhead Golf and Banquet Center to an asset North Canton, and something that North Canton residents can be very proud of. Mayor Held at the time said this was going to be a good marriage. Like many marriages, it can be a little rocky. Guess what? We're still here, keeping it together, and wanting to move forward. When we first took over, we repainted and recarpeted the entire clubhouse. It needed it drastically. Then our irrigation system went down, which was not covered by insurance because it was neglected for so many years. Bam, another $6,500. In the last 2 years, we've had to replace the pool heater and the whole filtration system. Because of a poor design, we pay $322.50 a month to have our lift station pumped out to keep sewage from backing up in our basement. Since we have also removed over 85 trees due to the ash borer and white pine blister. We're still maintaining our golf course today with aerification, mowing, and chemicals. In our proposal to the city, we have shown over $1 million of our money spent on maintenance of a property we are only leasing. hence the prudence of a triple net lease. Many years ago, we went to the city and said this contract wasn't working. We were told to keep at it and to catch up when we can. We have asked for signage, and we have signs that have been sitting on our tennis courts since June of last year. How many hamburgers would McDonald's have sold without the golden arches? When the city had water issues by Oakwood School, we worked with them to remedy the situation. When a neighbor would call about an issue, we have always rectified any of the problems. I would like to share some numbers with you. Yesterday, we served over 440 people for Easter brunch, and we had Mother's Day almost filled up. I have 500 parties booked for this and for next year. We've sold 75 pool memberships. We have 525 league players and 85 golfing members. Scott and I are not looking for a handout. What we would like to do is have the opportunity to move forward with a new contract. One is fair to both parties. We would work side by side with the city in triaging the needed repairs of the property. We would like to thank Patrick DiOrio and Kathy Farina for establishing a line of communication with Scott and myself with the city that we've never had before. Thank you. I'd also like to state that number,
Get 30 seconds.
okay, that number was very large on the paper, yet this didn't happen overnight. Basically, this is 2 payments a year, and in 10 years, this is how it got to this number. When we first got to Arrowhead, the paper listed it as North Canton's hidden jewel. Through hard work and perseverance, we are a hidden jewel no more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Anyone else want to talk on Arrowhead? Anyone else who wishes to address council, please step forward, state your name and address. Yes, let the record reflect members Soretta, Fonte, and Kiesling have resigned.
Larry Tripp, 1127 East Maple, North Canton. From early teenage years through some excellent mentors and 3.5 years in the Army, I was taught never to give up, never stop trying, never stop learning. Mr. Remote, thank you for your comments a couple weeks ago on my recent letter to the repository editor regarding finance director being appointed council clerk. I welcome your passion displayed during your statements, but sir, rest assured I stand behind my comments 100%. Every time I speak from this podium, I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm not going to sugarcoat my remarks, and I will not play any political games with them. Because of the ultimate sacrifice by hundreds of thousands of men and women, I consider it an honor and a privilege to express my opinion, either written or verbally. Mr. Revolt, care less what Jackson or Plain Township do in regards to their government body. My concern is North Canton and the ultimate spending of taxpayer dollars. This council continues to bastardize the city charter and local government in general. Do you suppose the charter writers visualize the council clerk on a water board, a city member of the water board? You talk of hostilities. I sat on the charter review committee and watched the chairman be undercut and undermined by our law director and council members Kiesling and Warren in regard to mandatory attendance at city planning commission meetings. In fact, I recall you speaking or sending a letter stating the need for council representation at these meetings. You have served as council president for this city and had an outstanding council clerk. Did you feel a need for a watchful eye back then regarding her work ethics. Why now? Mr. Revolt, Mrs. Warren, thinking outside the box. A very common and overused phrase when one is backed into a corner, which this council was and still is, and does something to cover up other problems. Yes, cover up other problems. And what cover-ups we have? They range from many things, many things. Mayor Held, we absolutely need an audit within the legislative branch of North Canton government. What have you got to hide or fear? By not acting, you certainly create a shadow of doubt, fear, and ill-fated action within this branch. By not acting, I am very much of the opinion that this city government, some 5.5, 6 years ago, with city leaders' approval, embarked on their journey for a law director city council form of government. This venture has cost the city in the neighborhood of $1,500,000. However, it has failed and failed badly. What does this city have to show for 5 years of turmoil? Not much. Negatives would far outweigh any positives. If seeking the truth in a quest for better government is hostile, I suggest this legislative branch once again take a hard look at themselves. Many citizens voice their concerns only after action or act of the action by council and or remarks by council members or opinions by a supposedly professional member of your legislative branch. It all boils down to this. The city is not about government anymore. It's about protecting some people, destroying others, and shoving a cover-up agenda down the collective throats of North Canton residents. Is anybody surprised by recent events surrounding this city? Absolutely not. North Canton residents, this could just be the tip of the iceberg. You simply cannot run a city with arrogance, lack of leadership, and work ethics of this city government.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, anyone else? Chuck?
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. For many years, it has been well known that R&S Golf Properties has sought unsuccessfully to comply with the terms of their lease for the city of North Canton. Rumors to this effect escalated to a fever pitch earlier this year. On March 19, 2019, I made a public records request for Arrowhead Records beginning from January 1st, 2017 to the present. The request was sent to the City Administrator DiOrio, Finance Director Brown, and Law Director Fox. A response 2 days later from Mr. Fox, looking much like a brief filed with the Supreme Court, denied my request as ambiguous and overbroad, but it included 3 attachments totaling 76 pages. Of those pages, only 6 pages were appropriate to my request. The remaining did not pertain to Arrowhead. The 6 pages were emails from representatives of Billy Casper Golf. Fearful that Law Director Tim Fox was being less than diligent in complying with my records request, I made a second request, also addressed to Mr. DiOrio and Ms. Brown, on April 7th. 3 weeks and I still had not received the requested records. This second request was denied April 10th, 2019. Late Thursday evening, April 11th, specific information came to me about actions city officials were taking with regard to Arrowhead. I learned that City Administrator DiOrio had entered into an agreement with Environmental Design Group on December 21st, 2018, assessing the cost to renovate Arrowhead at $3.2 million. That night, I made a third public records request. Late that afternoon, April 12th, I called Jessica Holbrook of the repository to give her a scoop on a story that needed to be told. Mrs. Holbrook, who spoke to City Administrator Pat DiOrio, had the public records within minutes of asking and had a story which she was able to post online by 7:30 p.m. The online repository story included the complete 82-page infrastructure assessment of the arrowhead property by an environmental design group, as well as the request for proposals that the city had been sending out to prospective bidders for days. On April 15, 2019, Law Director Fox concurs in a response to my third request, stating, and I quote, "Indeed, you have made 3 recent requests for records regarding Arrowhead Golf Course." And he continues with his denials. Interestingly, Mr. Fox states, regarding your second request for viewing records dating back to circa 2003, those records should be available by Wednesday. I'm out of the office tomorrow. Otherwise, I'd have the task of examining each record contained in the 2 full banker's boxes completed tomorrow. Yes, Mr. Fox, this is indeed interesting. My first and third public records request asked for records beginning with January 1st, 2017, and I have never referenced the year 2003. The first attachment of your 6 emails sent to me on April 15th was the only attachment that was appropriate to my records request. I cannot say that about the remaining 10 attachments in the 5 emails that followed. It is unbelievable, Mr. Fox, that you would waste your time reviewing and scanning documents that have little or no value. The 10 attachments contain 727 pages of general business receipts of R&S Golf properties for the years 2011 through 2016. Mr. Fox, these records were not responsive to my records request. Your time reviewing these records and any city employee you tasked with scanning these records was a waste of public tax dollars. Denying, delaying, and undermining Ohio's sunshine laws for citizens requesting public records are not sane, logical actions that one in your position should use for ulterior motives. You are abusing the power you wield for your own personal aggrandizement. I think this council body, and you, Mayor Held, should end the games and harassment that this law director continually exhibits toward me and possibly any other citizen he chooses to target. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Let the record reflect that members Kiesling, Fonte, and Soretta stepped out there now. Okay, anyone else wishing to address council, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to old business. Okay, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only, third reading, ordinance number 25-19.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance authorizing the City of North Canton to adopt a general fund balance policy.
Thank you, Chairwoman Ware.
So this is its third reading, and we've talked about it third number of times. Any other questions or concerns? Not, I move to adopt. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only, second reading, ordinance number 28-19.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, do we want to discuss this at all?
You have to read it first.
We're going to read it first. Okay. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Tim?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the City of North Canton, upon Board of Control approval, to enter into a project development agreement with Johnson Controls Incorporated to develop facility improvement measures, a copy of which is attached hereto and incorporated herein, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Chairwoman Ware.
So we have talked about this, and Laura sent all this information last week. Daryl, you had asked for some different agreements that were then sent out after two meetings ago. I guess in even talking to Laura today, you know, a lot of the projects they outlined were ones that are going to need to be done. Is Johnson Controls the right person, the perfect person? I don't know. I can't decide that either from the recommendations that we followed up with. When you pulled a couple out of, you know, how many have they done? We don't know. Some were really positive, some weren't. Some got the answers that they wanted or the benefits, and some didn't. I don't know. I think, Mark, you had some questions about it, and what were you thinking?
Well, on the same level there, I think I just want some more information about what exactly it's going to do. We're basically paying these guys to set up what we want to do, if I'm not mistaken.
They're like the.
I want to see what the extent of that is. I know we're talking about street lights, we're talking about, I believe, a generator or a heater, some of the other things.
Sludge.
What's that? Sludge, and sludge things. So, what would it be for us to just do it on our own? I mean, are we just taking another consultant easy way out? Or do we look into, you know, what would it be for us to go about doing that? If it isn't, well, I haven't been informed about that. So I'd like to know, and I believe other people here also are the same, what is the other side of the thing that we should look at? The sludge is kind of a new thing where it sounds like that will be compressed and we will sell it. So we will make some money out of that, it sounds like.
May I go?
Yes, please.
But the sludge is nothing that we've been dealing with sludge. Yes. So this is sludge press, so this is something different than.
Right, we have two sludge things we've talked about recently, so I see why there could be some confusion.
So this is something new that.
This is a process to not have to haul the sludge away in the same way that we do now.
So,
I know, Pat, you've spoke about this, and you understand it like you should. And
we spend a couple $100,000 a year
right.
to haul away sludge. Is there a better way to do it? Technology exists today that there is. Compress it, compress the water out of it, haul away the dry material, sell the dry material. It's much more easy to transport. And we believe that that process will save us a substantial amount of money. Now, could we go out and find somebody to build that sludge press and go that route? Yeah, we could. Would it save us money? Yeah, we think. But what about if it didn't? So the purpose of Johnson Controls here is to bring professionals in who can establish that based on their engineering, yes, you would be able to generate this kind of savings, and we stand behind it. If for whatever reason you didn't get those savings to materialize, we would write you a check for the difference. There isn't anybody else that's going to do that. So yes, you can go another way, and you can get somebody else to do it. And it's going to cost the same either way. Somebody's going to have to come in and engineer it. This, I thought, we thought was a more attractive option to the city because it takes away some of the risk what if you're wrong.
And gives us a way to finance it.
Well, a couple of things. So, I mean, you were given a presentation on this, right? On all this for Johnson Control and everything. Okay, we have, and we're over here spinning our heads about how this thing's going to work. So someone hasn't given us enough information for us to say, okay, this sounds really, you know, I'm really confident like you are. So maybe we need a better presentation on it. Because we're one over here asking each other questions. What do you think of that? So we're not fully on board.
I guess, let me say, and you guys, you did give you gave us the information in a document, and they spoke and couldn't answer our questions, but, you know, we're lay people, I'm a nurse practitioner, so asking the right questions doesn't always pop into my head while they're here, and now I'm looking through this information, and I'm trying to understand why we started down this road. Was it because of this, like, what made us think, hey, let's consult Johnson Controls, and did it just start with the sludge press, and then it escalated into the lights and then the generator happened because of the generator issue and the boiler? I mean, did we all think they were going to help us with all of these projects from day one? Or was it the generator happened and then all this out? How did we begin?
Can I go back to Mark's question for 1 second about a presentation? They actually called us on Friday, City Hall was closed, and I returned their call this morning, Johnson Controls, They offered to come in this evening and answer any more questions or give any more information. But since I sent out the information that I did last week, I hadn't received any questions from any council members. So at the point this morning when I returned their call, I said, no, I haven't gotten anything, you don't need to come in. I told her though, after tonight, if there were more questions, I would call her back and ask them to come back on third reading or at some point in time that you guys would like. But I didn't know that was a need at this point or a desire.
Laura, and before you go and answer Keesling's questions, how it all began. Well, it all began, a year ago with, being tasked with looking at all these different things. One of these items was on what I refer to as my Soretta list of things that, we've been trying to get after for a while, and that had to do with the street lighting.
Okay.
And so this Johnson Controls is the third company that I had brought in to talk about lighting, street lighting. But then in each one of those, they broadened out to, well, you want us to take a look around while we're here. You want us to talk about some other lighting needs and some other needs that you have in other facilities that you operate. Yes, I would. So, the department heads and administrative staff, we spent, countless number of meetings showing representatives around from all three of these places to put them in a position where they could make a pitch as to what they could do. And, it's no secret we have difficulties with replacing the street lights as they go out. A lot of them are still the sodium, they're not the LEDs. And we have a department of exactly 2 people who perform other duties in the water treatment plant. So I was looking for a way that we can address this, get it done, get it converted to LED, because I look at with Laura, she shares with me the cost that we pay for traffic lights in the city, and there's got to be a better way to get that cost down. It's just too much money that can be used on other things. So that led to Johnson Controls coming in. Hey, they can analyze that. And while they were in, they did, I felt, a more thorough job in bringing up some other things that the other 2 didn't identify. And with that, then that led to, okay, well, where we are, today, that there was a number of presentations. They spent time at the water treatment plant. The sludge lagoon's the big ticket item. We have a sludge lagoon contract that we're going to have to do something with later this year. And this is not an inexpensive proposition for the city. So if we have a way that between the traffic lights and the sludge lagoon that we can drop and save, a couple $100,000, and we can get the financing that they can help us with, and they can guarantee the savings, that seemed to be a pretty sensible risk management model.
I got a question. So actually, I've been confused by this a little bit myself, because it's like what Marcia said, these questions come later, and I think I sent you an email this morning, Laura, just that I wanted to talk to you about it, because I was a little confused about the cost, because it said in several places net neutral. So you spend $1, save $1. So to the city, it didn't feel like we really benefited, other than we save resources, across the country, with our Go Green theory, which is a good idea. So here's the question. So it looked like with the street lighting, and even though the lagoon thing is going to be the more expensive part, it looked like we were doing a 3.8% 30-year, or 3.2 mil, amortized over 20 years, to kind of get this break-even point. And if you get 30 years, then of course you benefit 10 years. So that was what I was thinking about, is I'd like to see cost plus. So I'd like, personally me, I'd like to see the savings, even though I know they're on the conservative side of what they're going to save us. It would be nice to see us net 5% above instead of just cost neutral, which I know they're being conservative because they're on the hook to pay the shortfall. But the question is, how long, so the $96,000 we pay them, is that strictly for the blueprint, the plan on how to address all of these concerns we have? And then once that's handled, then we have the blueprint, we can hire our own contractors, or do they manage the whole process for the next 15 years? Are we hooked into them for 15 years? I know I read it says there's like some language in the contract I'd have to talk to Tim about it because I'm not the expert in the legalese. But it looked to me like, you know, the goal is they'd be our service provider for long term. So I didn't know if that was true. So my opinion was, I said, well, maybe we should just table it and let's have these guys come in, let's talk about it, because we'll have all our questions ready for them, and then we can make an informed decision. Because like I said,
They might have some of the answers.
yeah, that's right. And so
Let's-
Pat probably knows, and Laura, that's what I was going to talk about today. Because here we are on the floor. You know.
Well, to address your net neutral question or assertion, you can certainly go separately, but you will have no net neutral. You will not know where you will be because nobody else can guarantee the net neutral position. They're saying that if they're short on their estimates on what we're going to save, that they will backfill that shortage. So that gets you your neutral. The amount of money that we're paying to American Electric Power won't be paid to American Electric Power. It's going to be paid to get these projects, finance this bond that's going to put these projects into place. You're not going to escape that if we do these projects. It's just who is going to do it. You're going to have to pay for engineering one way or the other.
But I mean, can we just do the engineering, get the blueprint, and we have the blueprint?
You're still going to bid it out.
Right.
It's going to get bid out.
So do we pay Jake Johnson Controls more than the $96,000 to do this program for us? Or is it a percentage of the savings, or what is it?
No, you're paying them the $96,000 to engineer the project, get the bid specs ready, bid it out.
And that's it?
And manage the construction
That's
process.
it? No more commitment after that?
They monitor the savings over time, over the length of the financing. So let's say 10 years from now, the savings that they predicted are not coming true, but we still have that debt payment in place because we financed these improvements, then that's where Patrick's saying that guarantee would kick in and they would, you know, fill in the difference. So you have to keep them around to monitor it.
How
But
much
it's
does
my
that
understanding
cost?
that the upfront cost.
It doesn't cost them anything to keep
Nothing.
them around. It's a monitoring issue where if they're going to be held to a contract in which they have to guarantee the difference between what we are supposed to save and what we actually save, they want to see, you know, the utility bills to make sure that they're not being hoodwinked by the city. So,
Are you guys clear on all that? So it's not an ongoing contract, or is what you're saying?
Yeah.
96K. See, I wasn't crystal clear on that.
But if you guys would like to have them come back in, that's certainly something we can do.
Well, we're on the floor here to vote on it again. We have all these questions, which we usually take care of during a discussion meeting. So I suggest we table it and move to the, and have it put it on. Darrell, you were going to say something?
I was just going to add, I think the administration, the easiest thing to do is to write a check annually for the lights, and bid it out, line recovery. I think what we've got here is a rare opportunity to, particularly on line treatment, to turn a corner. I told Patrick I had an opportunity to do a little internet research with two of these line presses over in Massillon. This is fairly sophisticated, large technology, but it can revolutionize our water treatment and actually save us money. So let's get the group back, let's get it back up here. Let's see if we have any more questions. But I think the administration is to be thanked for looking for ways to save us money and perhaps generate some revenue on the line side. Again, and I think one of the things that we have seen over the last year and a half is that we do need technical assistance.
Experts.
Experts.
Yeah.
Things are far more complicated in the days when Doug and I, the first time council, and all we argued about was the grade of the asphalt.
So are we all clear on what we just talked about? Do we feel good about voting forward?
Well, there is an emergency clause in this, but we thought there'd be 3 readings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to do 3 readings. So
Well, I want to make sure that we truly have questions, because like Laura said, she did get this out. I called her this morning, or this afternoon, I know we did talk about it. I've seen other projects that Johnson Control has done. I think they're committed to our area, which is a big thing. I mean, they're not going anywhere. There's a village named after them. They're working in Louisville. They're in North Canton. So I just want to make sure if they come back up here, that we really do have questions.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
If you'd like to have them come back, we could have them come back next week during the committee meeting.
Sure.
So that you have time to
That
ask
would be good.
questions, and then you have
Should go.
the opportunity to have third reading at the following council meeting, because tonight's only second reading.
Right. She's been here 3 different times, so it isn't something that they are trying to come to.
That would be 2 weeks from now. We don't have a meeting next week. So
Yeah, we did, the 20th meeting, the 6th, we're not meeting the 6th.
Oh, that's right, yeah, 29th, not the 6th, correct.
The mini meetings, 29.
On the 29th.
The next council meeting will be 13. Third reading.
So can we still do the reading tonight?
Just give a second reading. You can adopt it, the next one, you'll adopt it third with an emergency.
Yeah.
That sounds good, Doug.
Yeah, I agree. Let's pass the second reading. I had questions too. I talked to Pat, and sometimes you have to talk about it a few times, let it sink in. And that's a fair assessment of this. Bottom line is, from what I know, Pat can correct me, but we're out $96,000 and change. That's it. There's no additional monitoring fee we're paying yearly. They're going to show us the savings. If not, there's some type of situation with the contract. But here again, let's let them come up and let's ask those questions pointed out so we're all in full understanding. It's very important.
I could comment.
Well,
So,
hold on one second, Dave. To council, if we're going to have them here next week, at least let's formulate some questions, maybe get them to Pat and Laura. That way they have the questions ahead of time, or they can do whatever they need to do, so we're not just throwing something at them and saying, hey, we'll get back to you on this. Let's get them all answered next
This
week.
has been 6 weeks now.
Yeah,
so when you look at this, obviously the administration, what Patrick and Laura are trying to do is to get the technical assistance that we need for the sludge press, for the utilities, and there's a cost associated with that. And one of the things that we try to keep a balance on is we want to get things done, we want to keep it moving, but then at the same time, we don't want to make bad decisions. And the one thing that I've learned over time is that if there's not agreement, or there's a lack of understanding, then it's pretty clear that administratively, we haven't done our job in communicating, that message. Now, it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because, Patrick is a pretty technical guy. He can grasp things, but if it's not to the point where everybody can understand it and communicate it to the public, then we've got more work to do. And as far as, well, it's been 6 weeks, Stephanie, as you had mentioned, that's a good point. We want to get things done, but we certainly, everybody wants to get it done right.
Oh, I agree. I just think Laura passed it out. If people have questions, then get it to her.
Sure.
If people are thinking about it, Laura, Pat, and you all are there. We can call you anytime. So to come up here, I think, and act like, well, we haven't been told or this and that, I think is irresponsible on our part.
And I think
We can be proactive as well.
Sure. And it's not like it's the #1 thing that's on the top of your list. I mean, we've got a lot of other issues that are coming, that are coming about.
It's a good one.
And so, and this is important, but if you folks are not clear on something, then that is definitely an issue. And that just means we've got to do more work in understanding what's taking place, what are our options. I know, because I've had questions like, is this the only company that we could have went to? The answer is no. Why did we go to this company? Well, we've got to be able to reasonably justify that. What are the other options? Can you go to the power companies? Can the power companies do that? Can we go exclusively to a company that just deals with sludge presses? Those are all really good questions that I was not able to easily articulate. And as Councilman Revolt mentioned, you have to have technical assistance. But just like when we went through the IT, we identified one company that did a great job that brought everything together and really pulled the city out of a jam as far as our upgrades. But then, as Laura had mentioned, she wanted to make sure and follow the process and look into the other companies that could provide service. And then in the end, we ended up going with a different company. And we even had another company help us to assess that IT. So I was getting a little nervous at the time, but it was a very good suggestion that the administrator and what was prompted for our finance director. And Patrick's trying to keep the balance of getting things done, which is a good thing. but we've got to follow the process, and once we go through a thorough process and everybody's really clear, then I think we move ahead with it. But if there's a lack of clarity, then just, we can wait, a few more weeks until everybody's clear.
That answers my question.
So there's
Motion to approve second reading, ordinance 28.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only, second reading, ordinance number 29-19?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Jim?
An ordinance authorizing the supplemental appropriation of funds of the city of North Canton to be appropriated from the unappropriated resources of the general fund to the general government professional services account in the amount of $29,865 and the unappropriated resources of the water fund to the water administration professional services account in the amount of $66,780 for the cost of proposed project development agreement with Johnson Controls Incorporated.
Thank you, Chairwoman Ware.
So this is just the money that would be attached to that agreement. So we can give it a second reading, just like the other one, and kind of move forward at the same time, and then decide what we do. So I move to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to new business. Motion and a second to read by title only, first reading, ordinance number 36-19.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance to amend section 1171.02, Superintendent of Permits and Inspection of the City of North Canton's codified ordinances to replace the superintendent's reporting official from the city engineer to the director of administration.
Thank you. Chairwoman Keese.
Yes, we had asked the planning commission to look at this, give us what they were thinking, if this was an appropriate change in our ordinances, and they agreed to send it back to us. This is the first reading, making that change to replace the superintendent, is now going to report to the director of administration as opposed to the city engineer. Any questions? I motion we adopt.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only, first reading, ordinance number 37-19.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton, upon board control approval and pursuant to the Ohio Cooperative Purchase Act, to enter into a purchase agreement for a 2020 Mack Granite 42VR dump truck together with a snow and ice control package to replace a 2003 model and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Thank you. Chair?
This was in the budget, and we knew they were going to need this, and so this is just the process that we're doing. Lord, do you have any questions or concerns, or Pat? Any cool features on the dump truck that we need to know about? It won't knock down mailboxes or something like that.
Get that going.
Okay.
No question?
I motion we adopt.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to read by title only, first reading, ordinance number 37-19.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
37 or 38?
Should be
What's correct?
Did I say 37?
Should be
All right,
38.
that was a motion and a second to read by title only, first reading ordinance number 38-19.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance amending Chapter 155, Personnel Regulations of Part 1, Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Canton, to clarify certain provisions within sick leave, vacation, and leave of absence regulations, and to update the titles and compensation of certain positions to more closely align with current and future city operations.
All right, thank you. We addressed this last week. For those of you that weren't here, it added Kathy's title
titles, such as Captain's titles, different than what Patrick's was, and just some of those conformity things. And then we added a couple new titles, new positions, but like we talked about last week, those were not budgeted this year, so this is in wording, name only. If departments wish to use those titles or give those increases, they would have to come back to council for appropriations.
A motion we adopt.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, reports. Deputy Director of Administration.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. Just now the council's approved appropriating funding to the council chamber moves. I'm moving forward with that, working with our IT consultants. We're going to place the orders for the upgraded technology equipment, and we'll be meeting next week for a project kickoff to come up with the timeline and resources. That's all I have.
Questions for council? Engineer Graham?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief as well. As you know, as we've discussed, it's orange barrel season, so off to an early start for us this year. I've got 3 projects currently underway that are making real good progress. 3 more are about to start in the next couple of weeks. A couple of contractors currently working have also won sort of my next round of projects. So I guess you'll have dirt flying, continue to fly throughout the summer. If any of your constituents have any problems, just have them call our office. It's always going to be inconvenience and whatnot. We'll do the best to rectify any issues.
The repair on Bryant or Weber, will be done for the water main, that's just temporary, right?
That is just temporary. Well, it's the base asphalt. We replayed prior last year. And then over the winter, when asphalt wasn't available, the water main through that intersection had broken. The guys had to chase it down. We got the base asphalt in there. We were able to get some base asphalt a couple weeks ago. What we're going to do is have an asphalt company, actually the firm is the sub on the Eastbury job. We're going to ask them to come in and mill the middle of that intersection and put the surface coat. So they're in a little bit different color. You really won't tell, but there's a patch there. Okay. First year.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, we've got, with the Arrowhead Country Club, Rob, thank you for coming in and talking with us. And so you folks have been here for, this is your 10th year, and then you were actually working there when Kevin Marissa had the golf course. So I think one of the challenges that we've had as far as Arrowhead is, clearly you can see that the golf industry is changing, and the agreement that was originally made was back in 2009. And if you look over the past 10 years, there's been a lot of changes in the golf industry, which has forced their business, Rob, your business, to assess how you're managing the property. And it's consequently forcing the city to evaluate and assess how we are managing the contract and ultimately the property. And so, clearly I think the intention was on the positive end, but at the same time, not all the requirements were met. But again, I think that's largely due to the changing environment, because golf is, there's just fewer courses. So we've got to try to find a way to navigate through this and assess it and review it and come to agreement as to what is the best way to, we move from where we're at right now. But I appreciate you bringing up your comments.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then the JCs, how many representatives? If you don't mind standing here, we've got a number of JCs. These young people put a lot of work in to the Easter egg event, to the JC's Fair, July 4th parade. There's just a number of events, and you folks are the quiet behind-the-scenes people that make it all happen. And we really appreciate the work that you do, and not everybody knows who's doing the work, but everybody gets the benefit from the work that you do. So thank you for your service to the community.
You deserve a round of applause. These are unpaid positions, right? They're volunteers, so thank you very much for your dedication to the community. We appreciate it.
And if anybody shows up to the the parade where they're staging all the participants in the July 4th parade, your volunteerism, I would say your money is well earned, but you don't get really paid anything. And so that is a lot of coordination effort right there. And then the JC Fair, just a lot of work, and you get thousands of people that come into the community. So lot of time, all of you people are very, very committed. And if there's anybody that is, I think most of us, you got to be under 40, right? So that leaves me out. But you know, any other young people that want to join the JCs, that organization, you people really serve the community well. Then the other item is Mr. Tripp, in reference to the audit, we mentioned about the audit. And I know that was brought up, and I think it was, you know, my understanding of what you were presenting was like doing an audit of the ordinances that were passed, right? To make sure that, you know, things are accurate. And I have not been aware of an audit that has been done, like by the state, you know, reviewing the accuracy of ordinances. Because, you know, my understanding would be that you would only be able to have to do like a random, you know, you couldn't, to go through every single ordinance that was passed over the past 7 years to make sure that everything was, you know, solid for accuracy. I think that's what we're bringing up. But at any rate, I'd be happy to talk with you about that a little bit more, just so I get a better understanding of what you're speaking of. And then lastly, we have the roads. I mean, this is the best start we've ever had. So our engineer, our administration, great job. I mean, we are way, way ahead of schedule. Way ahead of schedule. We have never had this much paving and construction done, at least since I've been here, since 2001. So we are way ahead of schedule. And I think these are the most projects that we've ever had. This is the largest amount of paving and construction that we've done, certainly since 2005. And it's been great. It shows, you know, when you get this all planned out ahead of time, and you bid the contracts out, not only are we getting the work done ahead of time, but we're saving a lot of money. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the residents are pleased. So, fantastic job on that, all of you. Because I know it's a team effort. You've got our engineer, he's a driver on it, but we have our administrator, our finance director, our law director, our assistant director. Just a great team. You guys are, it's amazing how much you're getting done. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Director of Administration.
Okay, thank you. Just a few items. Fun with Flags will be starting Memorial Day weekend. Just want to remind everybody for that we will be putting up all the flags that we currently have for Memorial Day. We believe that's approximately 75 flags. On Flag Day, we will have doubled that number displayed to 150.
Yeah.
And then by the 4th of July, we will have all the flags that have monies procured for them to buy more flags, and whatever that total is, if it's 350 or 375 or whatever the grand total is, they'll all be displayed 4th of July weekend. And then it'll take some time to get them down, but then during the month of July, we'll be taking them down. So as we do that, you know, we'll assess what kind of time commitments that's taking, so that we have a better understanding down the road what our capabilities are, and we'll be ascertaining whether or not there's a more, you know, cost-effective way to do it. So, okay.
Thank you.
I want to thank Steve Schenk for taking one of the items off the DiOrio list, which is these two flagpoles bothered me since I was on council, that they were warped. The flags leaned left and right from the weight, and we got new flagpoles in here so that they stand straight. That's important to us because we do a lot of squaring in here, and we want to make sure that the flag is properly respected, the eagles are flying in the right direction. The detail is too small. JCs, thank JCs for accepting the invitation to come talk with us today. The administration has been on a mission to engage with all the civic groups, to reconnect with them. We've done this with the Rotary, the Lions, JCs, Chamber, and the list goes on. So there's ways that we can work together to make things better here, and that's we appreciate their involvement as well. I've spent some time driving around the city as it relates to kind of helping break in our nuisance department and looking at properties and kind of giving them the community standards. So I appreciate appreciate those that have called in some nuisance issues that we were able to go and address, so I appreciate that. Also, I've been traveling around with the engineer and other superintendents, reviewing projects that are in progress, thinking of things that perhaps haven't been done, following up on some projects that need a few nips and tucks, and then developing a project list for 2020 in all of the wards. So there's a bunch going on there. Chief Minnick wanted me to let you know that Ohio Citizen Action has obtained a permit to conduct door-to-door campaigning in the city. They are not required to abide by our ordinances in regards to times of day. So in case you get some phone calls regarding that, you need to be made aware. Our online auction completed. This is our second one, and the city netted just shy of $13,000 on our online auction, so I'm sure Ms. Brown is very appreciative of those things. And the Public Safety Service Committee finished its evaluations of the 4 architectural firms that had been selected as finalists for that project. Evaluations were completed by all those who were in attendance, and the firms were ranked in the following order. Number 1 was Brandstetter Carroll.
Say again.
Number 1 was Brandstetter Carroll. Number 2 was Zimmerman Strollo. Number 3 was Hasenstab. And number 4 was HG. Save the easy one for you. The process will continue. Will be pursuant to Ohio Revised Code. We will be reaching out to the first group and engaging with them to see if we can come to terms on a scope of the project. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Director Fine.
Well, we didn't have this pre-planned, but I'll piggyback on his report because I was going to talk about the Public Safety Center as well. To follow up what Patrick was saying about we ranked those 4 architectural firms, and Brandstetter Carroll came out on top of those rankings. Last week, the committee traveled to another city out in Northwest Ohio, Bryan, Ohio. So not that they're watching our YouTube feed, but I'd like to thank the city of Bryan for letting us come out and visit their public safety building. They have a combined police and fire facility, very similarly sized to the one that had been proposed here. So it was very nice to get out there, see their buildings, see how they work with that architect, learn from them. What were the things that went well? What were things, they could change, they would, that type of thing. So it was a very good visit. And we continue to gather information because although that didn't move forward last November, we want to continue to gather information because that's what voters told us is, we need to know more, we need to see more before we can support this project. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Law.
Thank you. Just thanking the JCs for coming out this evening on a Monday evening, and no other report.
Thank you very much. Member Foltz.
No report.
Member Serrata.
A couple of things. Pat, for your list for 2020, I'll add a Serrata then to that. And I know we've talked about this for some time, is our walking, all of our sidewalks kind of thing. And we talk about it a lot. But I'd like to maybe take a look at maybe putting a plan together for 2020 where we look at the top roads we want this to be a walking community. We all agree with that. But, if you walk on the areas, there are some sidewalks still that are really hard even for strollers to go over. So we need to maybe take a look at some of those areas and maybe figure out how we're going to do that, because I know there's different ways to do it, and then budget for it every year. Some path of some kind, or one of the roads that we want to at least work on every year, so we're working on at least some, because if and when across the street gets going and we want to turn into that walking city, we want to be ready for that kind of thing. We want to look down the road for that. And people, and there are a lot of roads that don't have sidewalks that should have sidewalks. I know we've all talked about that. We can't just watch people walk on the side of the road during winter time or whatever it is and just pull over on Lindy Lane, for example, because that's a busy road. But they need to walk on that road, or even Glenwood, to get to the parks that we want them to walk to. So I would like to maybe take a look at how we can do that, and maybe set up some kind of a committee or whatever it is to determine how much money we can put aside, or and what are the priority roads that we want to look at. Let's just start talking about it, and we can find out where we're going to pay for those kind of things. The other thing I mentioned a couple weeks ago, we went to Walsh, and I had talked about the monkeys and the bananas, if you remember that. And reaching for the bananas is a high priority, and also challenging the status quo, which you do a lot. And so, as a momentum of that, in your drawers, I want us to make sure that we continue to do that. So I want us to always be reaching for those bananas, and remember that, and to always challenge the status quo. Those are the two things that were there. So let's make sure we bring those out. Pat, you could have done that very easily here today, just like waving that around and reminded us of that. So let's use those in the future.
I wonder why it smells banana.
Don't eat it, Dave. It's not good. Okay. That's all. Report. Thank you, Mark. Member Revolt.
I would like to go last as members Soretta, Keesley, and Fonte will like to stand together.
Gotcha. Chairman Keesley.
Member report.
Aware.
Pat, I didn't know if we had any word on the pickleball courts.
Yes, we're getting close.
Yes, okay.
We're getting close. In fact, I ordered my pickleball rackets and arrived, and I plan on using it there and hopefully first break it in. We have a tremendous amount of interest from the Stark County Pickleball Association. We went over plans with Ms. Borish today, who runs our rec program, and we have the ability to schedule times and reservations. And it's frustrating to just come out to a court and you want to play, and there's a lot of people there to play. We have that ability through Civic Rec, which we bought a couple years ago to improve this, and now we're going to finally get to use that component of that software. That manages all of our rec rentals, our pavilion rentals, is why we principally bought it, but it has that ability to do.
So that'll be confusing, I think, to some people though, because they think all of our courts, right, you just go, you play whenever. So the pickleball, then we'd want to get that out some way.
The initial rush is going to be a lot of people, I think, coming to it, and then it'll probably work its way out. Yeah, but we have 4 courts there, so.
Do you think, like, June?
Well, I think we'll be in the next couple weeks.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Well, the Y has been doing, I think I mentioned, the pickleball lessons, and they've been packed, and so people seem really excited. I think that's going to be great. Thank you. Thank you for getting that going and utilizing those courts. Although I did see tennis players there today.
Yeah. Okay, Member Fonte.
I'd just like to go on the record and say that with the new gas tax, we're going to generate $300,000 roughly, and I'd like to go to the roads and the sidewalks. Not my ward necessarily, just the city streets. And I did mention to Rob, there's a few more streets we need to hit after this winter, and I don't know if you're going to find some extra savings from the early kickoff, with everything. But I just emailed you too today that you should drive by.
Right, absolutely. We were aware of both of them.
Did you see them?
They were on our list last year.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if we can get them on somehow. They're bad. I mean, they're really bad. And there's plenty more, so I'm just thinking, why don't we use that, because that benefits the whole city, not just one ward, So $300K would go a long way. I'd like to see that budget around $1 million instead of $588,700. Okay? So is everybody in on that?
Yeah.
Who's not a vote?
I like cars.
Just my idea. Pat, you in?
It's council's call.
Thanks for
spending the money before we have it, though.
Do you want some good news?
Give me some good news.
Gas tax has to be used for roads.
Oh, now I'm feeling better. Can we use sidewalks too?
Roads.
I'm good with that to start with. We'll get some money for sidewalks. No reports, but thank you for the flag.
All right, thank you, Doug. Again, we'll step outside. Record reflect Fonte, Soretta, Measley are stepping out. Member Revolt, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Having served with Mr. Fields for over 30 years, he would tell you that I mellowed in my old age. That I tend to disagree more without being disagreeable. Larry, I want to reiterate how we arrived at the current situation with the clerk. I've said publicly before, and I'll say it again. This was not the ideal solution. Mr. Foltz and I would have liked to have had a full-time clerk. But an extensive canvass for that candidate failed to produce one we could agree on. So the solution we came up with does in fact have a basis in law. It wasn't simply pulled out of thin air, the ether. We did look at the Ohio Revised Code. The fact of the matter is, and I think this is really my point this evening, is we look to an explanation why we didn't find that ideal clerk. Part of the explanation rests in this very chamber. Language and behavior on each side of the dais has been from time to time very disagreeable. And the fact that our meetings are online and available via YouTube discourage candidates. So my appeal has been, and you've heard me say it before, and I'm making it again now, is that we should all measure our words and our behavior with great care. Because what's said in this room has real consequence as we try to build a better city. Mr. Purcell, I'm glad you're here tonight.
Thank you, sir.
I would just like to say that without getting into too much, this is a very serious matter. And it's one that, frankly, probably will not be brushed aside. There are nearly $250,000 owed to the city. And my guess is that by now, these first 4 months, that sum has probably reached $300,000. And that may not include taxes and other costs. I would say that in your company this evening, we have one and perhaps more litigious citizens. Mr. Fox from time to time reminds me that I'm not an attorney and I shouldn't practice law. But those litigious citizens can go downtown and file a mandamus action requiring us to enforce the terms of this contract. I don't know how we got into this fix. I've looked at the chronology from the finance director's April 2017 demand letter, cure letter, to Patrick's efforts to get the thing on track. We haven't discussed it yet, but I'm sure we could and probably will. But again, I underscore how serious this matter is. This is simply not a business dispute, but this is one that involves public funds. And I would encourage you and your colleagues to make every effort to rectify the situation. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Darrell. I'll bring it back out. Okay, record reflect, Soretta, Kiesling, and Fonte are returning back to the room. Okay, that concludes reports, meeting schedule for the rest of the month and the beginning of May. Next week we have the special committee of the whole. May 6th, no meeting. Council meeting with public hearing. May 13th, public hearing is at 6:30 p.m. May 20th, committee of the whole, and May 27th will be no meeting, Memorial Week. Final call to new business with the council. Seeing none, I will
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Adjourned.
My son and son goes down about and we're having a special meeting at the church across the church. And wondered if I could get need something signed.
You can send it to me, sir.
Okay.
Where are ya? Yeah.
What about you?
I'm enjoying it. Good to see you. You too.
And I was such a tomboy as a kid. Yeah.
But there's no big sense.
Yeah, it's like nothing to do with I think I'll make everything else much more impactful. It's got to be the entire next episode, right? I just feel like, yeah. And then you'll have 2 episodes to wrap up the series. But they're going to be like an hour and a half episodes. And 1 episode 2. So they'll make 3 and 4, and you have 2 episodes to wrap it up. Because there's, like, the last couple were like an hour and a half episodes. Well, no, but like, towards the end, the episodes get longer. I mean, I'd just rather you do 8 episodes than like longer ones. I'm like, we're moving at the end of the month, and we're like, we're gonna take 3. And we're still at the other place. I really feel like now you're starting to see like there's
We just didn't talk about it. We wanted to know how much it's going to be to the grant.
I feel like what you're saying, and this idea that like, and like, so I can be a pro, but now because of like the officers connected to me in charge of it as a manager, I get that. That sucks. City. Yeah, her. She was like, these are my favorite episodes. Such a good episode.